Welcome. You're tuned in to the We Are All Artists podcast, a space where we talk about living life as a conscious creative. I'm your host, Adriana Douglas. Our intention is to support you throughout the process of discovering your inner artist and transforming from the inside out. Here in this space, we believe that the way out is through. On the other side is a world with more art, more beauty, and access to more of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. And now let's begin. I am so excited to bring you today's episode with Stephanie Powers. Stephanie Powers is the creator of Lightworkers Lounge, a podcast for spiritual souls on their journey of self-discovery. Before this, Stephanie was a 3-time entrepreneur and published author, founding Free Earth Photography and Evolve2Health Holistic Health Coaching. She's currently a full-time professional astrologer while writing her 3rd book. Stephanie has been featured on several other podcasts, including Spirit Guides Radio, I Am CEO, Mystic Rebel, and Happiness from Within. She has collaborated with several spiritual entrepreneurs, including award-winning author of the book Shaman Guides to Power Animals, Lori Morrison, the Holistic Psychologist, and Mark Groves from Create the Love. In today's episode, we touch on so many things. First off, we jam on social media and our relationship to it, and what it's like to live a life online and offline, and how can we bring the two together. Then, of course, we dive into the stars and talk about our moon signs, which you can learn more of by getting a copy of Steph's book, It's Just a Phase, Journaling with the Moon. I have a copy of this book and loved going through it. It was so much fun to learn about the high sides and the low sides of each transit and what your feelings are like as the moon journeys throughout its various phases and signs throughout the month. We also get into the astrology of the current times and dive a little bit into a few elements of my birth chart. This episode was such an amazing reminder that astrology is a blueprint. Astrology is a weather prediction, a weather forecast, and you get to choose what to do with that information. I am so grateful to Steph for coming on and sharing her knowledge and her talents and her time and energy with us. And I'm so excited for you all to hear this episode. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you for starting this.
Thank you. I have loved listening to your podcast. As I said to you, I'm like, oh my gosh, my Spotify Wrapped top. I must be a top listener at some point, but I don't know what that means in Spotify land.
Yeah.
So thank you for going first.
I appreciate the love so much. Even 6 years into this now, I can't believe that there are people that listen to me.
It becomes kind of surreal, right? You're like, I just recorded this thing about my life and people seem to
Yes.
a little bit.
It's literally like I am in a meditative state when I'm recording. I sometimes question my sanity because I think I talk to myself for a living. It's hard. Interviews are much easier because you can have the camaraderie, but when you're doing a solo episode, it's a free flow state. And then when I meet people in person who recognize me through Jeffrey, my bug, they'll say like, oh, how's your brother doing? Or is your mom okay? And I'm like, wait, how do you know that? Oh, that's right. I put my life on the stage.
That's the it's like Instagram versus reality, but podcasts are so real, right? They're so intimate, they're so real that then when people come to you, exactly, you're like, I forgot that I said that.
Yeah. But it's beautiful because people really connect with that. They absolutely connect with it. And being an artist, we are all artists. We wear our heart on our sleeve for a living. And it's not easy nowadays. And maybe this is something we were going to get into, but when you read podcast reviews or negative comments or DMs, it's hard. There's a line that the rapper Tech9 says in a song, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. Because I'm fragile. I just love it because it's so true. To be a successful artist monetarily and just in whatever success means for you, you've got to be super soft in order to create something that touches a lot of hearts while simultaneously a hard warrior, which is really, you know what I mean?
Yes. Are there things that you've learned over the years in terms of when to read those reviews or not? When to actually take something to heart? And then sometimes there are things that might just hit your heart and you're like, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's one moment that sticks out in my mind where I was in Colorado and it was wildflower season. And I've always been big on nature. Before I had a podcast, before anybody knew who I was doing photography. My business was called Free Earth Photography, and it focused on nature and conservation and animals. I used to go to animal shelters, and I specialized in taking photos of Black animals, Black cats, Black dogs, because it's really difficult to get a good angle and showcase how cute they are. And so I would do things like that. But then one time I took a photo with Jeffrey the pug and wildflowers, but I strategically made sure that I was sitting on a bike path, but it was looking up a mountain. So in the photo, I worked with the angles. It looks like I'm sitting in a meadow of wildflowers. Well, this person who has this large account about protecting national parks and just berated me. I mean, literally took my profile, put it on his in his stories and said, like, attack her, go. She's ruining nature. And I was like, whoa. And I knew I wasn't. So I reached out to him directly and I said, hey, I have a podcast. Would you like to come on and discuss what was going on? And he actually responded. Most people don't. And he was like, no, but I'll have a phone call. And I was like, perfect. So we call each other and we had like an hour-long conversation. And I explained to him who I was, what the photo actually was. And he took everything down because he was like, oh, shit, sorry, misunderstood. But when I scheduled a podcast to discuss, this is what social media can do. When you jump the gun, you can really harm someone. Like I was getting threats. It was bad. He ghosted me. That doesn't tell you that there's hurt people using the internet to feel better about themselves. I don't know what does. But in the beginning, if you remember Lightworkers Lounge, it went viral because I had a divorce episode. Do you remember that one?
I don't think I was a listener yet.
Yeah, that was early on. That was June 2018. I just got a divorce. I mean, I fresh walked out of the courthouse finalizing the papers and I locked myself in an Airbnb. The sun was going down and I just pressed record on GarageBand and I just verbal diary. I talked about what I was feeling like, wow, I'm 29 and I'm divorced, like the D words on my life resume. And I haven't listened to it to this day. I just won't. Like I was saying earlier, it's like a flow state, but I went semi-viral. That's how Lightworkers Lounge started to have traction and go big. But the reason why I share that is because, divorce is a huge thing to go through. It's hard, even if it's amicable, it's really hard. And so I talked about it for a lot, like all of 2018 into 2019. And people started to say, if this girl mentions her divorce one more freaking time. And what I would do is I would DM them back. Like I would find them and DM them and I would send them a video of me saying, hi, I'm really glad to hear your positive feedback on my show. Would you like to have a phone call? And they would all block me.
I love to hear that you're actually, first of all, okay, there's a person behind the account. There's a person behind the podcast because I actually wonder this now if I follow somebody on social or meet them, I'm like, and they respond. I actually wonder if it's them. I'm like, I don't know if it's your assistant. I don't know if this is like a virtual thing. Is it actually you? And so so when people voice note me back or something, I'm like, oh, it's them.
It's them.
But not always. So, exactly. But I love that you were doing that. I don't know if you still do that. I feel like it's amazing that you took the time, but also like what people blocked you.
Yeah, it would freak them out when I would come to them and say, hey, like that was a really aggressive DM or that was a really harsh comment. I would invite them on my podcast. I would say, I would love to interview you and have a conversation so we can be an example of conflict resolution. Here's the Zoom link to join me. Let's pick a time. And they would freak out and just block me and just disappear. And so I was genuine. Was it a little sassy? Sure. But I was like, this is going to be an amazing podcast episode. Like bring a hater on and be like, let's talk about why you hate me. And they would just deny it every time, which started to show me like, okay, this is a part of being well known on the internet is you're going to get comments like this. And the fact that nobody wants to have a verbal debate live on the show means that they aren't rooted and confident in what they're saying to me because they're too afraid to go on a stage and discuss it. And so that's the epitome of someone who is hurt and doing things behind a screen because it's safe. And so, with that said, I no longer read comments. I no longer read reviews because it's negative energy that takes up time. Time is so precious. And I understand now that it's not constructive for anyone, for them, for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, I probably have like 3 reviews, but they're nice so far.
I know.
But I know
One bad egg ruins it because I've got some amazing ones, but I just won't even go there.
Yeah. That's good to know. And I also remember, I think there was an episode at some point where you had mentioned like it was a similar idea of like, wouldn't it be cool if we had, and it might not be this exact example, but it was like a doctor who's like super Eastern and then one who's like super Western, like sit down and talk. I think that concept is still like really needed. And I find that lately, even just doing some like standard Western, like yearly checkups and then like not feeling like I got any clarity and going to the Eastern side, which I do dabble in, and then being like, oh, I feel more clarity. But why can't they
meet?
Why can't they meet?
If anyone listening to this knows of a podcast episode where a very passionate vegan debates a carnivore, please send it to me because I dabble in both. I'm such a mutable person. I love the influencers and then I love the people who show their cellulite and the reality of Instagram. I love Western medicine. It can save your life and I adore Eastern natural medicine. I love religion. I think Christians and Catholics and people who practice and organize religion, it's beautiful to have faith in anything, but obviously I'm the queen of Lightworkers Lounge, so that's my forte. But I think it's all so cool.
Yeah. It's so cool and so needed, like the balance. I feel like the world with where we are today, we could use some balance. We could use some more love too. I'm curious if
Oh,
do the stars have positive, I said a sunny forecast for
gosh.
coming up? Is it
No.
sunny?
I say astrology is a weather forecast, right? Some people love the rain. When someone sees a string of gray, rainy days on a 10-day forecast, there are some people, usually people born and raised in like Arizona or Florida, they're like, oh, great days where I can make tea and read a book. This is amazing. Versus someone who grew up in New England or up north, they are like, oh my God, I'm praying for sun on the first sunny day. Everybody's outside in flip flops, even if it's 40 degrees. So that's astrology. I don't think that some people will say there's good placements and bad placements. Some people will look at Scorpio or Capricorn and be like, oh, that sucks. But some people are like, those signs are amazing. You're lucky. So, with that said, there is a lot of big change coming up. In 2023, we got a little prelude for it, specifically March of this year. So, March 2023. There was Saturn, planet of karma, self discipline. She dipped her toes into Pisces. And so everyone with a Pisces Saturn began their Saturn return.
Yes,
but then, your Saturn's in Aquarius, right?
I finished before that. Yeah.
You feel like an adult now.
Oh, yeah.
Then you learned your Saturn lesson.
That rings
But
true.
yeah, the other really big player in astrology for this year and next is Pluto. Pluto is the farthest planet in our solar system that we know. And he has such a big impact, but he moves really slow. He takes about 18 to 20 years to go through each sign. He's been in Capricorn since 2008. Capricorn rules banking, politicians, finances, work. Can you remember what happened in 2008 with banking and money?
I can.
Right. And ever since then, there's kind of been this trend of more and more people every year don't identify as Democrat. They don't identify as Republican. They're all just like anti-government. It's like the more and more you talk to people around you, nobody trusts the government. Everyone thinks big banks are scamming us. This is what Pluto did with Capricorn. He was moving into Aquarius. So when Pluto, because he moves so slow, when he moves into a new sign, we know there is a new wave, a new era being ushered in. He moved, dipped his toes like Saturn into Aquarius late March of this year. Saturn was the first week, Pluto was the last week. So March was quite the doozy for a lot of people. Whew. But can you remember what came out in late March this year?
Oh, I feel like I have a because I listened to your show earlier. I do know Chat GPT.
Chat
I was
GPT
listening.
and AI. And while it came out and we were like, "Ooh, what's this?" Because we all like, what's this new app? What's that? It was like, okay, this is cool. And then it was like, okay, this is weird. Okay, whoa, people are literally writing entire web pages with AI. And now there's figures like you were just saying, we don't know if you're talking to someone, if that's who they actually are, the internet anymore.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's kind of scary. And then nobody is asking why. Like, why? Why do we need Chat GPT? Like, over the summer, I talked to a retired high school teacher and I asked him, I was like, did you notice Chat GPT? And he was like, oh, teachers are all getting together to come up with software to run papers, to run tests through to see if someone cheated by using Chat GPT. It's crazy. And I just don't see the benefit of it.
It's interesting because that was something that like you had to put when I was in school, we had to put papers through some other website that checked if we like plagiarized. But
Plagiarized.
obviously,
Yeah.
ChatGPT didn't exist then. But what I think about with
Right.
ChatGPT, now that you're saying that, is like when you were sharing about that story was one, it's like maybe loneliness. I'm kind of going in off on a tangent because it talks
Yeah.
back to you,
Yeah.
and then two, like saving money. Those are like
Yeah.
because at least like when I've like dabbled in ChatGPT and learned and been like kind of playing around with it,
Yeah.
it I'm like, oh, maybe I don't need to hire help. Like
Help.
maybe
Yeah.
this help me but it's sad because it's like that's an expense issue. And
Yeah.
so but it does save time, right? It does
It does. And I've tried again, mutable, trying to play devil's advocate with it. I'm
yeah.
like, wow, that could actually. One thing I saw was AI could go through all of my podcast episodes and pull clips to share
Yeah.
as like social media posts for previews. And I thought, wow, I've really been looking for someone to do that. And here I just
Yeah.
pay and press a button and it does it.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So there is some beneficial things to that. And I remember when it first came out in March. Oh, me and my boyfriend, JL, we were like, let's type how to be an astrologer and just see what it says. Oh my God,
Good.
it was spot on with
Wow.
everything that me and other astrologers I know, where you start, what you do in the middle, how you find clients for readings. It was like, oh, this is robot.
Wow.
How? What is it pulling from?
It's
So there's benefits to it, but Pluto moving into Aquarius is going to show us the dark side
okay.
of technology and
Yeah.
social media. And this shouldn't be anything people fear because if like we were just saying before we recorded, like there's a lot of comparison traps. Social media is social, but it's really messed with people's mental health. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. So basically Pluto in Aquarius it shifted in this year, right? You said
Yep,
March.
it shifted in late March, and then, like Saturn, Pluto went retrograde back into Capricorn. So, all summer and most of this fall, and now into winter, we've really felt our comfort zone that we've been in since 2008. But, you're a Cancer sun, you're very intuitive, you're a walking sponge. Have you felt collectively people getting more agitated, more irritated?
Myself
Do you,
included,
yeah. Do
about
you
the
just,
changes and
do you just feel something looming?
I think it's more like yes, and I've wondered if it was like the pandemic lingering, but maybe
Yeah.
it's something new. I've always just felt like did we ever come out of it? That was always my
Right? Like where
thought.
did it go? It just kind of disintegrated. There
Yeah.
there was no like official announcement. Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been feeling. And Saturn finally stationed herself in Pisces on November 4th of this year. So she's in there for good. Everybody with Saturn in Pisces, have fun with your Saturn return. And then Pluto on January 24th, 2024, he will come back to Aquarius. And so we astrologers are like, ooh, what's going to come out with technology around late January? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
Did you know on social media, like I know for Instagram, I'm not sure about the others because that's all they go on.
yeah.
But did you know people can purchase followers, purchase likes, buy comments?
I figured as much, and yes. And I also can't tell, like now that I've started a social profile for building a business, the I'll see people like my stories and I'm like, again, I go back to that. Is this you? Because like
Real?
you don't follow me, like you don't anything. Like, are you just trying to get a follow
Yeah.
back? Like I
Yeah.
have so many questions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um it's scary that you can do that because then it's like it goes back to that. Is this real?
Yeah.
Do you care about my personal growth? Are you just
Yeah.
trying to make a quick buck?
What are they called? I have to Google it. That's what it's called. They're called click farms.
Click
Have you
farm.
ever heard of a click
No.
farm?
What's a click farm? I know click bait. Click
You've got
farm.
you've got some Googling to do later, but a click farm is a form of click fraud where a large group of low-paid workers are hired to click on links or buttons for the person who purchases them. You're going to freak out when you see the Google images because people have busted these things. I mean, when you look at images of click farms,
Yeah.
it is literally just walls of iPads and iPhones
Yeah.
that one person is directing. And
Yeah.
I've known people who have purchased followers and they will go from having like 250 followers to close to 200,000 over the course of like 48 hours. And I'm like, why would you do that? And a telltale sign is if you look at all the comments under someone's post and it's all very generic, like awesome, fire, emoji, emoji, emoji. And it's like, okay, these are fake. And so people are purchasing them. And you might look, someone who's getting started on their podcast, you might look at other podcasters and go, dang, they have hundreds of thousands of followers. Like, I've been doing this for a year and I'm only at 500. Like, what the heck? But yours are authentic.
The real.
They're
Right.
real. Theirs are none. And what's scary is there's a lot of brands who social media marketing, it's a huge $1 billion business. They're just looking at numbers, but now they're going to realize with Pluto and Aquarius, okay, I need to actually see if this is authentic or not because your 500 followers could get way more sales than someone with 200,000 fake followers from a click farm.
So the click farm itself, the click farm is somebody going in and being hired to follow, follow,
Yes.
follow.
It's
And
insane.
then, yeah, then they're not really a real follower. So like when
Right?
somebody buys followers, are they buying like bots or they're buying fake accounts?
Bots.
They're buying bots that then,
Bots and fake accounts. Yeah, all of it. You're going to have so much fun Googling your Virgo moon. Is going to be like, what? But tying this back to we are all
yeah.
artists, like it's so hard yet beautiful. It's such a paradox because to be an artist, you got all these platforms to showcase your work and get eyes on it that you never would have just in your direct community.
Yeah.
Then, though, you've got click farms and people buying followers, and it makes you feel like, wow, I'm not that good at what I do because look at them go. And here I am, right?
What about, I was going to say, what about we are all honest?
We are all honest. Oh my
Like, what
gosh.
would that be like?
Oh, why would we do that? That's boring. I know it's true. It's so I really just shout out to the accounts on Instagram who are like, this is what I actually look like. These are my stomach rolls. Check out the cellulite on my thigh. I'm a normal human being.
I know, I love that. Sometimes it feels strange. Like, I guess what I would ask you, so you now going into since we're in a social media rabbit hole, you've got 3 accounts on social.
I do.
So
God.
how do you maintain and manage and not get tired? Are you posting only when inspired, or do you feel this pressure that to
Yeah.
show up?
Beautiful question. When I first started Lightworkers Lounge, I just had my personal account and then I created Lightworkers Lounge as its own account. And I would post 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. morning, noon, night, Monday through Sunday, every single day. And I did. Oh, I grew authentically. I didn't have money to buy followers, even if I wanted to. So I grew that account to, I think got up to about 325,000. But then, Poppy, but then I just got so burnt out. And then at that time, I went through my divorce and I really just kind of divorced everyone in my life. I was like, whoa, I need a complete overhaul of energy. And so I was very isolated and I was alone to focus all of my energy on this. And long story short, at the time, I was very much a starving artist. I quit my comfortable corporate job. And so it was financially sink or swim. I had no other choice. And so that kind of stress and pressure could really create something. And so I took that stress and pressure, combined it with from the heart, because everything I posted just flowed right from my chest. And it just, boop, 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 boop. I was getting 1,000 followers every other day.
Wow.
Yeah. And so now, I've actually lost. I was at 325 and now I'm at 269,000, which is a huge cut.
Yeah.
But it's because I started to form more authentic relationships in my life. And so I was like, wait, it's so much better to be present with people in front of me.
Yeah.
And so I would post once a day and then I would post once every other day. And then I found myself posting once a week. And then I don't post on Lightworkers Lounge at all.
Okay. So it's just like the home of the podcast on the internet.
Yeah. I pinned a post that's like, hey, the podcast is still alive and well, but Instagram, it really just kind of tanked. We went through the pandemic and then I just started to realize with all the bots and all the fake accounts and that my reach, there's an algorithm you're going up against as well. And if you're not following trending audio, making reels or carousels, I was like, this is kind of taking away from it. But also, do you study human design?
A little bit. I know enough.
What are you? What's yours?
I'm a generator.
Of course you are, Virgo. Of course you are. I'm an emotional manifester, kind of a rare breed. And from what I learned about it, I felt so validated in my workflow. It's basically, I ride this wave of emotions, and sometimes I feel blocked, stuck, unmotivated. But that's the wave I'm supposed to just sit with. And then other times, the lights are all on, and I am posting on all 3 accounts and just knocking out the work. And so I started to say, okay, let me stop trying. JL gave me this quote. He said, stop trying to generate your way into being a manifester. Mic drop. Yeah. And so I said, okay, I'm only going to post things when it feels good from my heart. And so Cosmic Coconut is the 3rd account, the astrology account. And I only post on there once a week, once a month, whenever I just feel lit up. And those reels do so well. They get thousands and thousands of views. One of them is almost like 900,000. It's so cool. That's really Whereas, cool. Yeah. So I just heart-centered. I go for it. I don't put the pressure on. I've got to get an episode out every single day.
That I love it. And I also remember do you feel like you would love to live in a world where we don't have to use social for business? Or is it like, I feel like I've either heard an episode or stories where you're kind of like, I want to build physical community. Maybe we're just talking about physical community or like a physical Lightworkers Lounge or.
Yeah. So that has been in my brain since the conception of Lightworkers Lounge in 2018. Again, so mutable here, devil's advocate. I think there's got to be both because look, we connected through the magical internet. And so
it would be sad if we didn't get to do these things now that we know it's possible.
Yeah. And so I'm not biting the hand that feeds me per se, but we humans, man, we love to go all in and just ruin good things. Give me it all. And so I think social media still needs to be a thing, but I think we need to have self-discipline with it. We need to parent ourselves. If we're having shitty days, don't go on the phone. I know doom scrolling can make you feel better, but that's the last time you should be doing it. And I dream of opening a physical location where you can come in and read some astrology books, get a reading. I love a podcast studio, so a little bit of both. And I'm going to hire people to make the TikToks and the social media posts to promote the physical location, still have an online presence for people who can't come visit us, but a physical location for people who say, okay, I want to go see this with my own eyes and know that this is real.
Is it in the dream location of the Keys, or are you like, you're open to wherever this.
I turned 35 last week and I'm aging. I'm getting old and getting some wise wisdom coming with that. But of course, I would love for it to be in Key West. I would absolutely love for it to be there, but I don't know if it will be. And there's this thing that I've noticed, these places that are so magical to me, like Key West. When you move somewhere that you're in love with, it completely changes. When you realize, oh, I have to go to the dentist. Oh, I have to take my dog to the vet. Ugh, I have to go pay taxes and get a license plate. It ruins the magic and the allure. As a traveler, I'm like, okay, what place do I like but not love? Do I want to keep Key West sacred, where all responsibilities go out the window for a second? So I'm thinking the Florida Panhandle might be where the physical, it's like my halfway point between Colorado and Key West.
Is that like, this is going to be testing my geography. I get this totally wrong. It's going to be embarrassing. Is that like where Rosemary Beach is and stuff?
Yes, that's literally that's funny you say that. That's like literally the beach.
That's where I've been down
there. Yeah, that's so ironic. Did I say that? Where did you get that from?
This is gonna be like Creep City.
No.
Because you have been there. And so like I went there during the pandemic. But I think you posted a coffee shop in 30A.
Yes.
And I had like a tumbler from there and I was like, oh, like I've been
Was
there.
it Black Bear Coffee?
Probably. Is there only one? There's like a few like really.
There's a bunch.
Are there a bunch?
There's a bunch. Yeah. But that's literally where it feels good. I don't love that place. I'm not obsessed with it, but it would be a good place where I feel like I could work and go to the vet and the grocery.
Well, and it was easy. I lived in Atlanta at the time and it was really easy to get there driving. So it seemed like a place that people, and it also kind of felt like a mini Europe with some of the things. Like
you feel like you're in Greece. It is so bizarre. And I don't think people realize 30A, Florida, is just an absolute gem of a place.
Yeah.
Because it's right by Alabama. And when you think of Alabama, you're not like, oh, gorgeous vacation.
I think we had to drive through Alabama to get there. And I remember being like, of course, like, because I know you like love music too. Like when something like that happens and you're on a road trip, you're like, well, obviously we have to listen to Sweet Home Alabama now. We drive through Alabama for 10 minutes.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So funny. I love that you want to create that community. And also what you were saying, which is something that I think about quite a lot now, because I've been living in Virginia where I grew up for about like 2.5 years now. And every time I visit somewhere now to think about where I want to move. And I think we've talked about this offline before, is one, there's something in my chart, and I think you may have a similar thing in yours about where home is, finding home, and the like that can sometimes feel difficult. And then two, what you were saying, like I definitely think it's true that there's some places that are like just to visit, and some places where you're like, I could live here, and having to figure out the difference feels complicated. And I know you've traveled a lot. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm essentially a young snowbird. That was part of my dream. It's so funny how if you just plant the idea of this is how I want my life to live, your subconscious mind just naturally makes decisions to create either that exact vision or something eerily similar to it. Because for 3-4 years now, I have lived in Florida for the winter and Colorado for the summer. I'm like, wow, I didn't even like try. I just went where I went. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. It's hard to be like, I love this place, Key West, an island. It's amazing. But then, when life hits and rent's due and you got to go to turn your utilities on, it's like, wait. This is supposed to be the fun place. This is supposed to be where I feel young, wild, and free. Why do I have to work my butt off just to afford to live here? I can't even go swim in the ocean. I'm so busy. So you got to get grounded in this ideal of like, okay, where is a good place where I feel comfortable? I've got all the things I need, like nature, hiking, cute coffee shops, but I can also be an adult. What's wrong with Virginia? I love Virginia.
Virginia's cool. I think sometimes for me, like I want more art and I want more character. I'm less of, I think it's more about the suburbs for me. Like I feel like suburbs are tough for
Yeah.
wanting to build community. Like I feel like
Yeah.
suburbs are a lot of times people that have been like settled or are ready to stay. So I feel like it's been hard to meet people as an adult, like versus growing up, I would say.
That is like next to love questions. That is the number one thing I see. Uh, I have a newsletter, What's New and Good. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of
Yeah.
it and I've definitely been on it but not every week. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
tell
send it
me.
out every Monday and I just, it's like the email version of the podcast. And I made a newsletter about what I thought about bridesmaids and like all these big group things for women and how I've never been in a wedding. I was like, guys, confession, I have never been a maid of honor. I've never been a bridesmaid. I mean, I don't have sisters, I just have a big brother. And I've struggled with female relationships all my life. And so I've just never done it. And I was on this period of like grieving over it. But then at the same time, hearing other people's experiences of things like that and how they're like, oh, it was a nightmare. And I was also a photographer for weddings, and getting to see the behind the scenes of it is sometimes like, oh my gosh. But so many people, it was probably my most responded to newsletter, because I don't think people realize when they hit reply, it's my personal email. I strategically did that. But they were all like, hey, if it wasn't people saying, hey, I've been in 18 weddings and I broke the bank every time, the couple ended up getting divorced, like
Right.
it was a nightmare, or other people saying, me neither. And so, with what you were saying, I struggled to meet people. That is like the most common thing I hear from people in their 20s and their 30s saying, where are my people at? I can't find them. I'm so lonely.
Yeah.
So that's what you mean with the suburbs. You're like, okay, it's suburbia America.
And
Target bags flying in the wind.
so it drove me to find these online communities, which is beautiful. It's kind of like full circle what we were talking about. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, there are people like me on the internet. And then you're like, how do I find you here?
Oh, where are they? Yeah. And then we get so used to being able to respond, reply when we feel like it. And so then when we find them and we're like, okay, now I have to go to their house or invite them to mine. This
Right.
feels a little foreign at first. Are they
Yes.
still gonna like me?
Yes.
We curate these characters. I get nervous sometimes when I meet people in person who are big fans of the show, because you guys just get my voice. You get to see
Right.
my prorated image on
Right.
social media, but I suck. I'm a human. I do mean things. I fuck up a lot. And so I just get nervous. I'm like, you guys have created a character of me that's beautiful, one thing. But when you meet me in person and you're with me on my bad days, it's like I'll just squash and completely blow up the image that you have of me. It's no different than when you're falling in love with someone and they can do no wrong and they are
Right.
just the love of your life. And then you move in together and then hard times come and then in-laws arrive. And it's like, whoa, didn't see that in you. Do I stay and love you during your winter seasons?
Yeah.
No, your IC goes through Capricorn. So IC line's the bottom of the birth chart. Yours going through Capricorn tells me, do you like mountains or beach? What do you prefer?
It's so funny because this would be the why I know human design, because it tells me that mountains is my environment. I like the beach, but something about the beach, I get a little stressed out at the beach. Like I love the beach because I always thought Cancer. I was like, ooh, water sign. Ooh, I want to be by the beach. Even when I was picking colleges, I had applied and gotten into College of Charleston. And I was like really excited, like, oh, I want to live by the beach. But then for college, I was like, I want more of that football American
Yeah.
college experience. And so I ended up choosing South Carolina, Columbia.
Yeah.
And however, I've always had this confusion of like, when I go on vacation, I'm not picking the beach usually.
The beach.
It's usually a city or mountain or getaway, but I'm not like take me to the ocean.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Well, yes, you are a Cancerian crab, but the sun is our ego. And so the ego gets a bad rep, but he's a good guy. This is our character. This is developing from birth until age 30. When we go through our Saturn return, we're learning who we like, who we don't resonate with, what we like, what we don't even think about. That's our ego getting developed. And that's our sun sign, our personality. Once we step into adulthood, age 30, we move into our rising sign. And so now you're a Libra. But in terms of helping people with locational astrology, you actually don't look at their ego, their sun sign. Mm-mm-mm. You look at their moon because the moon sign tells you, what does this person need to feel emotionally safe, grounded? Yours is in Virgo, girl. You need nature, the woods, quiet ground. Virgo is a very cerebral sign. And so you need greenery, big oak trees or big pine trees to ground you. But the IC going through Capricorn, Capricorn loves the busyness of a city and the access to things to help them build their career. But it's an earth sign that rules mountains, big boulders. I think of just pine trees and evergreens when I think of Capricorn. And so if I were to just pick a city for you based off of your chart, it would be like Seattle, Portland, maybe Missoula, Montana. What do you think, Denver? What do you think of that?
It's so funny you say that because right when you were like the mounts, when you're explaining Virgo and the greenery and everything, I was like, yeah, but there's this city part. I was like, there's this city part because sometimes I feel like nature, like I I love a good getaway, but to be secluded on a daily basis wouldn't work out for me.
No, Libra rising. Yeah, that's why I'm like Seattle or Portland or Denver, because you can live right in the trees and the mountains and feel like you're miles away from civilization, but then just go down the hill and woo, I'm in a major metro area going to a concert and going to work. That would be beautiful for you. But yeah, no water. You are a Cancer, but that's it. Your chart just says I need big trees, but also liveliness where I can grow my career. Sun in the 10th house. You want to be around the big people, around the places where you can succeed.
It's so true. I think about that too when I'm like, how am I going to network in Missoula?
Exactly. Bozeman's a hopping place. People don't think about it, but there is a lot going on there.
And Boise. People talk about Boise a lot.
Holy shit.
Have you been there? I've never been there, but I hear about
we've been there multiple times and we looked at moving there, but everybody and their mama is moving there right now. But absolutely amazing, amazing city. And it's growing vastly. They actually have right in the middle of their city, and it's very college oriented too. You would love that. It's called like a city center, and it's just for networking.
Oh.
So you just walk in, it's beautiful. It looks like a stadium almost. And it's all these meeting rooms and there's all these networking events to grow your business or your passion project. I was like, okay, Boise. Wow.
I love that. Actually, you know what I'm going to ask you? Because I asked somebody else this recently.
Yeah.
Who would live in the desert? Like, what would be a placement that lives in the desert? I've been wondering, like, when do people go to the desert? Like in Arizona.
Like what astrology placements?
I guess, yeah. What astrology placements are like? What would draw people?
Fire signs. I'm looking at Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. They want the heat. Turn it up. Air signs could be, I definitely would not encourage water moons or water ICs, but I'm thinking fire, hot, heat, sun. Even though it gets cold in the desert, that sun can still burn you on a cold winter day. So fire signs, fire IC, a fire moon, air signs too, because they need the breeze that is always continuous in the desert. So a Libra rising, Gemini rising, Aquarius rising. Ooh, Aquarius especially because the desert is so isolated sometimes. Aquarius loves to be on their own, calling in the aliens.
Yeah.
Well, Aquarius rules community too. Sometimes Aquarians just really value their friends. Their friends are their family.
Okay.
What signs are you attracted to? Like most of your friends, what are they?
Ooh, this is a good question. I don't think I know everybody's signs, but some things that have been interesting for me lately in my world is that people that I've been like working with, have for one, we have flipped moon and rising. So like, I don't know if it's something, I don't know why. And then somebody else, we had like a similar, well, the same profile for in Gene Keys, the activation sequence, but it was like flipped. So it's been interesting that I've been meeting people that have like a flipped sign.
Yeah. That is interesting. Fellow Cancers can help you in your development to get to where you want to go, especially professionally. But your descendant, your DC line, this is the love line, it runs through Aries. Have you ever dated someone born in April, late March?
I was gonna say no, that I can remember.
Yeah.
Actually,
Aries.
is that where I'm headed?
Well, the descendant, the love line going through Aries, normally people literally marry the sign of their descendant, but sometimes it can just mean you're attracted to people like that, which an Aries descendant is someone attracted to very masculine types, people who take charge, who take leadership. They could be really athletic. Would you say that's your type?
Yeah, maybe. I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, man, I'm scratching my head now because I always thought that now that I've learned about the moon sign, I always thought you are supposed to look at that person's moon sign to see if you're compatible.
Yes,
So
that's right.
You're throwing me for a loop with the DC line. I'm
Yeah,
like, what?
no. The moon is that true test of emotional
Okay.
compatibility. But the descendant can just tell us, what are your relationships like? What are the characteristics of someone in Virgo and Aries? We're going to pour their ingredients into a smoothie and give you a love smoothie. This is someone who's, they are acts of service. They take charge. You don't need to ask them to do something, a favor for you. They've already done it. You're like, wow, how did you know? Okay.
What about Venus too? Because people are like the Venus sign. Should we
Very
give
good.
Venus some credit?
Oh, of course. Venus tells us how you love and how you expect to be loved back. Lucky you, yours is in Virgo as well. This is so big on acts of service. This is huge on honesty, purity, like be upfront with me, be real. My Venuses in earth signs, they require a partner with ambition, especially Virgo.
I've heard that.
Do
I agree.
you feel
I will
that?
say 1000%. And I'm also laughing. So I'm like, I guess anybody listening, if you don't fit this, like, don't call me.
Yeah, your chart is powerful and you really need your chart can lean heavy in the masculine. And so sometimes if you're into men, that can push them away because they're like, well, what is my role here? Like you've got your shit together. Like, what do I do here?
Actually, I think that would be like a potent thing to chat about just in general. I know obviously not everybody's chart is the same at all, but the whole like that's something that's thrown me a little bit off is I have a more masculine chart, right? So then all of a sudden I'm like, I have to be more feminine, I have to be more feminine, right? And that kind of that narrative, especially when you think about like spirituality, spiritual world coaching, where it's like, oh, you can either lead from your feminine or your masculine, or just saying that we as women need to go back into the feminine. And so I have definitely struggled a little bit with some of those narratives because I'm like, my chart is literally like structured like this. I can't structurally change
myself, right?
Yeah. Like you can change certain things, but not like the core. So I would love to maybe hear your thoughts on that when you have something super dominant in your chart.
Yep.
Don't try to like, I don't know, like change it or hide it.
Right. I see what you're saying. You're like, we have this spiritual age that's like, women, step into your feminine. And you're like, okay, but also I'm not a feminine person naturally. I really like working, being outside of the house. I like money. Like, right. And that's beautiful. There can be a way that you go about that as well. Like, I'm thinking, what if you met a man who is like very heavy in Libra and Pisces, these super sensitive? Yeah. They're soft, they're feminine, they're gentle. That relationship could be beautiful, but it's probably going to be you carrying the weight of all of it. If I were to create a dream chart for you, it would be like a Capricorn sun, Aries moon, Virgo rising, like something really, and maybe a Cancer rising too. Don't sleep on Cancer's ability to be successful. Okay. You remember me saying most billionaires are Cancer suns.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so it's all about working with your chart and define what it means to be feminine to you. When we look at your Virgo moon in the 12th house, this is someone who can step into their feminine by acts of service through spirituality in the 12th house. this could be hosting a women's full moon circle, right? The Virgo moon in you is like, perfect. I'll make the invitations. I'll schedule the date. I'll make sure we rent the space. I'll even bring some snacks for people. Just be super organized. And all of a sudden you're handing out like some delicious tea and cacao to all the women there, getting their little meditation cushions together, and you're feminine. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And I think you're onto something. That's what I started to realize was like there's so many ways to incorporate the feminine, even with intuition. Because intuition is like super feminine and tapping into helping women and things like that, which is it's just learning about the inner balances and the inner and when you tend to lean one way or the other. So I think that's super helpful.
Right. We get told like being feminine is being a stay-at-home mom, making sourdough with 2 kids. It's like that can be really beautiful for my Taurus, for some Libra placements, but to some women it's like, no. And when we look at your chart, I do like to give a weather forecast of what to watch out for, not to scare people, but to plant a seed of when they'll remember my voice and go, oh shit, I found myself in what she said. Okay, skirt reverse. Let me get out of this. Yours would say, I'm attracted to controlling partners. Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not surprised. Right. And so that's the red flag I want you to look out for. Like, is this person controlling again? Because Aries rising, I can sometimes see just verbal abuse. It is just an overly hyped up masculine man who cannot understand that we're equal. The Virgo moon could be attracted to people who control you and just do this, try this, critique you, too difficult with that. So those are the things to watch out for in your chart.
That's so interesting. And it's something too to like, this is getting like, might get a little heady. The whole idea of like what we attract, we are not opposites attract, the like we attract what we are. Do you see that a lot? Do people feel in their charts like, oh, opposites attract? Like, do you get that type of?
Oh, yeah. I was just saying on today's episode about relationship readings. Sometimes I'll read a relationship chart and I'll think, this is the most amazing synastry. Like, this is written in the movies, but it is a couple that just abuses each other, just awful. And then I'll see a chart where I'm like, oh, man, these are tough. And this couple has been together for 30 years. So it's like, okay, there's a lot more at play. Like we were saying in the beginning, it's a weather forecast. It's a weather forecast. That's all it is. And you get to decide if you bring an umbrella or dance in the rain.
So it's also like what you're saying too. It's like what you just shared with me is like, these are some ideal things, but it's like, if I go to travel and meet somebody at a retreat and they are literally none of those things, it's also okay. But if I were like going out searching, I might have this checklist that.
Yeah. I always tell people that when I teach them your moon is the true test of compatibility. You're not looking for your ego mate, your personality mate, your sun sign. You're looking for your soulmate, and your soul sign is your moon. So yes, you are a Cancer. And maybe in the past you were like, ooh, that person's a Gemini. I'm a Cancer. We are not a good match. But Gemini is actually beautiful for your Virgo moon. It's a great one. And with some people who are like, dang it, I found my perfect partner, but their moon sign really clashes with mine. I say, hey. Clashing, it's just something to bring awareness to. I am a Sagittarius dating a Virgo. We are what we call square. We are 90 degrees apart in the zodiac, which is normally the worst of the worst. But as long as we can bring awareness to our ego clashes and when we get too hyped up in an argument, say, okay, agree to disagree. Okay. Walk away rather than let it turn into something big. That's all you do. And then it creates passion. I love a good debate with him. And his Virgo-ness expands my Sagittarius mind. And my Sagittarius really makes him open up and be less perfect as a Virgo. And so it keeps the relationship alive and well if you handle a conflict maturely. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And my wheels are turning now. Do you find that the North Node, I would think, because you have some readings that are putting charts on top of each other, right? So I'm thinking, what about the North Node? Because North Node's like where you're going. So Is it possible that if you're with somebody, they might have like a north node that's kind of not going in the direction you are, or
Same
can
direction.
you work it out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yes, that chart is called composite chart. And this is if your chart and your partner's chart had a baby, what would the energy of that relationship be? I like to use the analogy of colors. If you think about all the past relationships or friendships, you can assign them a color. Some were like a deep blue or purple, some were a fiery red, others were a peaceful yellow. That's the composite chart is okay, what's the color of the bond between these two people? And the north node is where I steer the couple to go. The south node, exactly opposite, is where they can get stuck and just be spinning their wheels and fight about the same thing over and over. So they have a combined north node when you blend their charts. So no matter if on their separate charts it looks difficult, there is a combined one in the composite.
And it actually is a sign. It's a combined.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
It's an actual one sign.
It's one sign.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's really
It's
cool.
so cool. Yeah, relationship readings really, really help people. And the composite chart, there's a little piece that can tell you how a relationship might end. And some people don't want to know, it scares them. But other people are like, with Virgo placements, are like, no, tell me, because I want to make sure I watch out for that.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
love that. So I guess if to wrap up, if people are starting on this astrology journey,
Yeah.
you probably want them to know. I'm not going to fill in the blank. What do you want them to know?
If they're starting on their astrology journey,
Yeah.
I would say, hey, it is like learning a second language. It's very overwhelming. It's take it piece by piece. It can be addictive because we're in this age of self development and finding ourselves, and you just want to take it all in and read your entire chart. But then you walk away even more confused than when you began. And so, if I can leave people with one piece of advice on how to tap in and read their soul's blueprint, study your moon sign. That's your soul sign. That's your emotions. When shit hits the fan, when you get pushed up against the wall by life, how do you react? You have a Virgo moon. I would say you probably go, holy shit, I'm so stressed. Okay, let me make a list. Let me make a list and let me just check off that thing on the list and I'll get through this. I have a Scorpio moon. What I do is I communicate to everyone around me, hi, I'm going to go recluse for an entire day. Do not talk to me. I just need alone time to alchemize this pain into strength and I'll be right back. But I'm off limits.
I know from one of it might have been on Cosmic Coconut, something you shared about like after doing so many readings, some like common things that you've seen. And this may have been the Virgo part, but when you said like when Steph is in my head, you know what it is? It's step away from the self-help. I think that might have been the Virgo placement.
It's the Virgo. It's a very, very strong feature in Virgo suns, Virgo moons, Virgo rising. If they are not productive, if they are not doing self-help, they don't know what to do. We are human beings. It is so difficult for them to just be. Virgo, derived from the word virgin, purity. I need to be perfect. If I'm not, I'm a failure and I suck. Virgo, especially Virgo moon, that's you, Missy. This is one of the most common placements for people who suffer from body dysmorphia. They're so mean to themselves. I'm not perfect. If I get a little soft because I'm in the progesterone part of my cycle, I'm fat, I'm terrible.
Yeah. I totally, maybe not that example, but I totally feel you. And that's why when I saw that is the Steph voice currently, that will ring my head of like, ooh,
good.
I feel like I need to chill out.
Yes. Understand your moon sign because this is a key part of you that doesn't go away. And if you can feed your moon, give it what it needs to feel emotionally safe and grounded, it's oh so important in this crazy world that we're in right now.
That's good to know. And people can learn about their moon with your lovely book.
With my book, It's Just a Phase, Journaling with the Moon. You can get it on Amazon. It's cheaper on sale right now for the holidays. And yes, that's exactly right. You learn in the first half of the book, you learn about your moon. And then in the second half, I give you the reins. You learn about how to journal with the moon. The moon in the sky, it changes signs every 2.5 days. And especially Cancer placements, since you guys are ruled by the moon. Cancer sun, Cancer moon, Cancer rising. You guys are really affected by the moon's transit. In fact, just right now, the moon moved into Aquarius like 5 minutes ago.
Cool.
Is it any wonder that we started talking about social media and chat GPT and astrology? This is Aquarius ruled.
Oh, okay. No, I love that. I love what you can learn from it. And just like learning about the other signs too has like helps me understand mine more too.
Yeah. And give us an example. What did it take for you to start this podcast? Did you have the idea for a long time before you actually made an action towards it?
So what it took for me, and I was mentioning before we started recording, I signed up for a podcast course, and yes, I wanted to start it for, I don't know, I would say at least a year, maybe. But what it took was the getting out of the like perfectionist Virgo moon thing. It was like, so the course I did was with Kathy Heller, and she was very much like, you do it messy. And for somebody for 8 weeks to be like, you're doing it messy. Like in my head, like the scene that kept playing was like, okay, I'm in whatever high school, summer break is 1 week away. How much effort would I put into the final essay? Like, this is how I'm getting it out. Because if not, I would be like, no, I have to re-record the episode. No, I have to do 7 more. No. So like for 8 weeks for somebody to just be like, you're getting it done. Like it's done. And I'm like, oh, I can just finish something and it be like messy. What? What?
Yeah.
Messy? Because that's not a Virgo moon thing. Messy is not.
Perfection is your key. Oh, I'll drive you nuts. I record an episode and I post it immediately. My guests have all been like, wait, what? You're posting this like today? I'm like, yeah, why? Who edits your show? Nobody. I have never re-recorded or edited an entire episode.
I love that.
You're like, but I cannot.
That. Well, I will say I do not, for the most part, edit, but one of the first episodes, I was laughing about this with my friends. I said maybe like 40 times. I actually started counting. I was listening.
Oh, Virgo, stop, don't count.
And I was like, I can't post this. This is so annoying. But that's the Virgo. So anyone listening, know that like you can also tone it down. Like that doesn't happen to me anymore. But after many episodes, I'm like, I don't have time to edit. Like I just don't have time to edit. So they just they go out with obviously the editing of the song and the thing.
Yeah.
But the actual thing doesn't get edited. So it's been a big learning process for the Virgo, like control.
Yeah. When you go after a passion project like this or something you really want to create something big with, you take it seriously. Of course, you're going to nitpick. And you know how many people say like and I tell you right now, Miss Virgo Moon, we don't notice it. It's just you. We all talk just like you.
I know.
So to anybody listening is like, wow, I really resonate with this girl. And you're like 3, 4, 5.
That's like if anybody gets your book, and also you have it recorded on the podcast, right?
I have a free audio book for It's Just a Phase. Of course, you won't get as much out of it because you don't have the journal at the end. But if you want to listen to it first, yes, it's free. 5 parts on the podcast.
What I will say, being a user of the book, of the journal, is it has the high side and the low side of the transit. So like what I just described is probably more low side of Virgo.
Very good.
Versus high side.
Yep.
So just for everyone listening, you can tap into kind of either
or. Yes, I tell you what to watch out for. It's just good. This is astrology. It's a weather forecast, what to watch out for. We all look at the weather to say, oh, it's going to be cold on Saturday. I'm going to pack a coat so that I'm not out in the world freezing, right? So I show you the disempowered to say, hey, pack your coat in this area of life so you're not freezing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So for anyone listening, grab a copy.
Yeah, It's Just a Phase, Journaling with the Moon. It's a black and gold cover. Speaking of fake stuff, did you know my book has been copied on Amazon? And a lot of people who self-published on there are getting their books completely just copied. It's
How is that even possible? Like I don't know what part of my chart this is, but I'm like, how do people think of this And how they can profit off of your book? Or they re-released it with a different name or same name?
Different name, but like the same cover. They don't have a preview to see what it's like, and I don't want to purchase it. But I'm just like, oh man, do you remember like over the summer or like late last year, a lot of spiritual accounts were being faked? Like there were so many fake accounts and DMing people like Grand Rising Love, would you like a reading?
Did that happen to you?
Oh my gosh. So the blue check mark that's on my personal Instagram at Stephanie Powers, I purchased that. I pay $15, 25 something a month for that. And at first I was like, ugh, I don't want to do this. But it finally put a stop to the fake accounts that were completely duplicating my profile. And they got hundreds, if not thousands of dollars from people. People I went to high school with were like, hey, I thought I was getting a reading from you. And I sent them a Venmo and now they blocked me. I'm like, oh God. So I signed up for the Meta Verified and people were like, congratulations on your blue check mark. I'm like, no. I mean, thank you. But no, I just did this to protect you guys. So now nobody can duplicate me.
That is scary. And nobody can get their money. I'm guessing if they blocked them, like, is this a lost cause? You're not like, can't
Click Farm, baby. I can't wait for you to tell me what you think of Click Farms when you look at the Google images. I wish I could see that Virgo moon face. It's crazy.
I don't have the bones in me to do anything like that. Like I just don't have it in me. I don't know who does, but like
your heart is pure.
It would hurt me too. I'm like, I can't entertain that. So
no. Some people respond. Like I have seen people, because to get a post to go viral, it's the number of comments on it to put it on the algorithm. Some people who knowingly pay for followers respond to the bot's comments, like having a conversation. And I'm like, oh, this is a real thing. This is what people are doing. So
I've appreciated there's been an episode or two or more of you and JL talking about this topic.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it so much because I'm either not listening to or not finding the right things, but I feel like this isn't a topic that is talked about that often.
It's not. And you know what? The episode that just came out today, the Pluto and Aquarius, is about to get weird, where I just talk about influencers and news feeds. I woke up actually like, shit, should I delete that? Like, are they just going to think I'm so weird? Because nobody else is talking about, why do I think of something and get an ad for it?
Oh, yeah. To me, that gets really trippy into like spiritual concepts that like you think of something and you kind of, it gets brought into your life quickly.
And we go deep. We're like, we think we have free will, but do we really? Because we're pretty influenced on every corner of everything we do every day.
And that's the thing. If we talk about like free will for 5 seconds, which could be like 7-day conversation, but the astrology, right, is a blueprint.
Yep.
And so in some ways, I've always been like, it's a blueprint, it's weather forecast. But then when you go down this like rabbit hole of do we have free will or not, then you're like, but is it a blueprint or is it have more to it than just that?
Oh, girl. In astrology school, I was again the devil's advocate.
I was like asking.
I was annoying the shit out of my teachers. I was like, hey, you have a twin. You have twins who are born 2 minutes apart. They have the same exact birth chart. Why are they polar opposites? We just again, that's an episode I should probably record, but it's true. It's very true.
Okay, so if you want to hear more about astrology and
technology and aliens,
you're kind of like, see you playing the guitar lately.
Oh, I learned to play guitar, and I have an episode about solar returns where I talk about why or how I ended up learning to play the guitar and how astrology played a role.
Is that out?
Yeah, that was 2 days ago. It's called Solar Return Chart.
Oh, I definitely want to listen to that because solar return is the birthday chart.
That's right.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm getting quizzed and like,
yeah. Right. No, you're so good. You're so good.
All right, cool. So I definitely want to listen to that. Anyone who has not tuned into Lightworkers Lounge, you should run on over there and listen to the podcast.
Come hang out. If you feel like you haven't found your community, we're a water cooler of like-minded people. Anybody's allowed to come over, hang out with us, talk about the weird things you think about, and then get advertisements for on social media.
And you have a membership for astrology, right?
Cosmic Coconut. Yeah. Cosmic Coconut. You go to lightworkers-lounge.com and click on Cosmic Coconut Astrology. It's no longer a monthly membership. I made it a library that you can purchase all at once. And so if you don't want to invest in a reading one-on-one, you have a different way to read your chart. It's just like 100 videos I think I made of me teaching you how to pull your chart, how to read it, how to break it down. Yeah.
Oh my God, thank you for sharing that. I will link everything in the show notes.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on. I had so much fun.
I know. You and I could be like Joe Rogan 2.0, just 4 hours.
After I just told you I could never sit through a 2-hour podcast, you and I'd be here till like 5 o'clock.
What do you think of Neptune?
Wonder if we'd lose, if we would care, we'd get everybody we'd lose people, or if they'd be like, oh yeah, we're in for the 5-hour.
I promise you they're listening to this going, no, don't stop. Keep talking about random shit.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. And
You're so
welcome.
Will
talk to you soon.
Thank you for inviting me onto this. You're on to big things, and it's an honor to be here with you.
Thank
you. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you learned something new and embrace being the student of your own life until the time we meet again. If you'd like a way to support the show and to hear more of this content, I would be so grateful if you leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts and take a moment to hit the subscribe or follow button so that you get notified of new episodes. I'd love to stay connected with you on Instagram at WeAreAllArtists with 3 L's. I can't wait to get a DM from you hearing what you loved and what topics you desire to hear more of. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. I'll talk to you soon. This podcast is for entertainment and general informational purposes only. I am not a licensed healthcare professional, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician or other qualified professional.